We are live checking.
Sure.
We can start the recording.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this amazing session of Let Us Talk It. And I say it amazing because trust me, today's topic will be different. So, all of you who are joining in on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, please, if you can, definitely share the link with others. And we hope the best. Um, can come in any form at any time of the day. So this is one I can absolutely say that if you take time out and join the session, it will definitely benefit you. And the speaker also said that, you know, he is going to give something to take back at the end of the session so that you can apply it and get results immediately. So with that thing, I think I'll just talk a little bit about our Let Us Talk It webinars. It happens every week, every single week, 4 days a week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We have kept it for professional webinars where it involves work and life so that it can help you on both ways. And it happens every day, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. And on Saturdays, we have our youth webinars from 4 to 5 p.m. EST. And for the youth webinar also, we give training sessions for the youth every Tuesday and Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. EST. So we have tried to cover everybody and every subject possible. But if you have new ideas or comments or feedback, please do leave us those comments in the chat section or in the comment section on YouTube, or you can email us at webinar@letustalkit.com. Okay, for today's topic, it is go beyond responsibility and accountability, how leaders drive fast growth and navigate constant change. As we all know, this is an important topic. And to give this topic a new look and to know more about it, we have with us our speaker, Gene Hammett. He is a leading expert on high growth company culture and leadership. He has decades of experience with more than $40 million in revenue for the companies he has led and owned. Not a very small number. Gene has interviewed more than 530 CEOs of high growth companies to understand the core principles of fast growth. He consults companies to activate new growth and reduce the high cost of ineffective leadership. After 15 years of being a serial entrepreneur, I love the term, Gene has built teams and taken many companies to 2 times and 3 times growth. He has worked with more than 2 dozen companies on the Inc. 5000 list. And Jean is a best selling author of the book, The Trap of Success, a book about breaking through to new levels of growth. He has leadership insights and have appeared in large publications like Inc., Entrepreneur, and Success magazines. Since 2014, his show, Growth Think Tank, formerly known as Leaders in the Trenches, has been recognized by Inc., Business Insider, and Entrepreneur for its insight on growth and sales leadership. So nothing from me, but anymore. But we want to hear from you, Gene. Absolute honor to have you on our Let Us Talk It platform. Over to you.
Well, thanks for having me here. I really am excited to share this with you. So I'm going to start in a place where maybe it's a little bit personal, but not too personal. This is the question. Do you remember the first car that you paid your own money for? Do you remember what color it was? I know my car was brown, kind of a poop brown color. Nothing special about that car. It had nearly 100,000 miles on it. But what was really different about that car was I owned it. And the way I felt about that car was pretty amazing because it represented freedom for me. Here's another question for you. If you've ever rented a car, do you remember what color that was? It's likely that you went up to the counter and you signed the contract and you initialed whatever it is they ask you, you turn down all that extra stuff, right? Because no one needs that extra stuff. Back when we traveled, we rented cars, but we were signing the contract, taking responsibility for that car. So if we wrecked it, we would have to pay for it. And the really reality here, and what I want to paint a picture for you, is there's a big difference in the feeling of responsibility and the feeling of ownership. I wish I could see your faces, because when I'm looking at audiences, I really take this moment to say that there is a difference between responsibility and ownership. And we're going to talk about that today. One of the things I study is growth. And I want to share with you a little quick tool that I use. And I don't know if this will actually work well for us, but I can kind of walk us through it no matter what. I'm going to go over to my iPad. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to see how quickly this happens. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. So if you want to grow your company, you know you've got to focus on certain aspects of that growth. And so my question is, what are the metrics that we as company owners focus on when we want to grow? What are some of those metrics? I'm not able to see the chat. Is anyone able to see if someone's responding to this, or is there a delay?
No, nobody has responded yet. Otherwise,
All right.
I'll be able to see. Yeah.
When something comes up, just let me know. But I'll list out a few things that a lot of companies focus on. So one of them is profitability. Another one is sales. Another one is new accounts. Some of the other things that we look at as company leaders is we talk about new markets. We track all this metrics. We look at the products that we're offering. We may look at percentages of different things. You kind of get the idea that the company looks at growth by measuring these things. And we have a lot of conversations around these specific parts of the business. And they're very important for us to align around certain goals, certain objectives, and to be able to speak the same language. But here's another piece to this that I want you to be aware of. In order for the companies to grow, a lot of my clients, a lot of the people I work with, they're not one-man operations. In fact, they have teams of 10, 50, 100, 1,000. And so you have to look at, what do the people want inside of their relationships at work? So my question to you is, what do you want as an employee, as an internal leader to the team? What is it something you want? And if they respond to us, just let me know and I can add that to the list. But here's some of the things I hear when I do this in front of live audiences. They want experience, right? They want cool projects to work on. They want new skills. They want freedom, right? They want to, back, a year ago when I asked this question, a lot of employees want to work from home, and nobody was letting them work from home. And now we're in a place where almost everyone's working from home. And I don't know where you are today. I'm coming to you from my home. This fancy thing behind me is my green screen. So, an employee wants a completely different set of things for their own level of growth. They may want benefits, right? Or they want training. They want paid vacation. My point for putting this out here for you to look at it is to ask you this one big question. If a company wants to grow and they measure their growth based on some of the things that I've listed over here, but people who are responsible for driving that want something completely different, how do we wrestle with the fact that there's a completely different list of things that these two parties want? Well, this is a classic, conundrum or paradox inside of our leadership in our companies. Is we as leaders have to figure out how to connect the dots on the people side of the business with what the company wants, those goals. And that is our challenge. It's actually a very difficult challenge. Leadership, no one said it would be easy, but it's actually hard because people have emotions and people have preconceived notions and preconceived expectations around what they want. And they're not always the same. They change from day to day to week, and they change over time in drastic ways. What you wanted a year ago, you may want something completely different now. And as a leader, you're managing all this stuff. Now, what's a little bit more in control, if you will, is things like sales. They know what to do to get more sales. As an organization, we know how to take 1, 2, 3 and move forward. I share all this with you because I wanted you to understand that there is a paradox that you have to wrestle with in leadership. So as we continue to move forward here, we want to look at a little bit different perspective of what is going on inside of our organizations before we talk about the real topic today, which is beyond responsibility and beyond accountability. And both of those things are really good, but what you will find out today is what is beyond that. And I've already hinted a little bit to it, this feeling of ownership. And so let's dive into it to see what happens. I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to pick my desktop and I'm going to play the slides.
Yeah, just while you are doing that, Shweta has raised her hand. Any question, Shweta? Okay, no worries. I thought maybe she has a question. Sorry, Jean, please.
It's okay. Can you guys see the title slide here?
Yes.
So this is what we're going to talk about today, but I want to dive into this whole concept of the organization and look at it from the top down. It's like really take a 30,000 foot view of what's going on inside of our organizations. So we have to have a strategy to be able to go to market, right? We have to have a strategy for revenue, for profits, for gaining new customers. All of those things, very important. As our company grows, we have to have the people that get it done, the team, and they want something completely different. They're thinking about their compensation, career development, flexibility, all of those things, kind of similar to what we just did before. But here's the third piece behind this, is leadership. Leaders want some things too. They want to show that they've created results for the company. They want their own promotions over time. They want to be able to document the performance of the company and of their team. And they want to be great leaders. Now, when you think about growing a company, most people go, okay, if the people, the team side is a little bit harder to manage, but what's in my control is the strategy, they end up putting a lot of focus on the strategy. And that strategy puts the leaders' time and effort on talking about work, talking about the metrics, talking about how we're going to get things done, the milestones, the issues, the challenges, and all of the things that go with it. And so we spend most of our meetings talking about how are you going to get this done? What's next? Who's going to do it? When's it done by? And that's what consumes us. And a lot of people think that's the way to grow the company. But what I've noticed is fast growth companies actually approach this a little bit differently. Yes, they focus on strategy, but they have the ability to focus on their team first. They have the ability to really connect with those team members because they understand that scaling to the next level is not a short-term thing. It's not something we just do next week. It's something we're doing time and time again. And so they actually want to pour into the people of the organization, the team, if you will. And those leaders that do that are able to see the benefit of actually getting a much, kind of bigger overlap between the team, the leader, and the strategy. The results, if you will, are much bigger. The small triangle is what's happening in a normal way. this overlap represents what happens inside of growth leadership. So I wanted you guys to see that because it really is important to see this big level and really a different shift with fast growth companies. Now, I know I talk about fast growth companies and I will give you some context to this, but when I asked fast growth founders and CEOs a big question, they gave me a really different answer than what most people would give. And I'll tell you what that question is in a second. Actually, I'm going to tell you now because I guess I moved some slides here. I'm going to back up here. The big question is this, and I ask this to the founders when I'm talking to them on my podcast, when I'm talking to them and just one-on-one conversations, when I'm doing my research, hundreds of conversations. And I ask them, as a leader, what's more important, your customers or your employees? I call this the impossible question because it's kind of like the chicken and egg, which one comes first? And most people will kind of argue that, well, you've got to have both. You've got to have employees and you've got to have customers in order to grow a business. And I'm not going to argue that with you, but what's most important for the leader to put their time and energy into? Fast growth companies say it's something completely different than what slower companies say. Now, Jeff Bezos, maybe you know him, richest guy in the world, and he's been very successful with his approach to this business. Is the most important single thing is to focus obsessively on the customer, and our goal is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. He's done very well for himself. He's created a lot of wealth for his investors, but their business is probably a little bit differently than most people's. Most of the people that work within the Amazon world follow standard operating procedures, and they are just meant to deliver packages or put packages in boxes. And most of our businesses require us to think. So let me ask you a question. If you required your employees to truly think about the strategies, the context at which they're working, and how to navigate these big, complex challenges where standard operating procedures aren't always right in front of you, you may not have a customer-centric organization. You may actually take the view of this other leader, Richard Branson, who said that clients don't come first, employees come first. And if you take care of your employees, they will take care of the clients. This is the concept that which most fast growth companies believe in. Richard Branson hasn't done so bad for himself. He's created freedom. He lives on a private island. He seems to play all the time. This is not the actual, what leadership is meant to do, but he understands to get to where he wanted to, he had to get people to go beyond responsibility and beyond accountability to a feeling of ownership. I told you I study fast growth companies. So the Inc. 5000 are the fastest growing privately held companies in the United States. Really, we're limited to the United States because they just wanted to contain it. But I study the fast growth companies. And here's what I've seen. Now, to put this in context, you've got the average growth of a company in a 3-year period is about 40%. And a really big company would probably take 40%. That's a pretty good growth rate. Some companies are growing maybe a little bit less. But again, this is over a 3-year period because that's the same period at which Inc. measures their growth rates. Now, Inc. companies believe in fast growth. And so just recently, I looked at some of the conversations I've had with leaders, and their 3-year growth rate was almost 2,500%. Now, that is an incredible amount. If you don't know what that is, that's like going from 1 million to 25 million. And so just to put that in context, that's the kind of companies I'm studying, is their approach to leadership and culture. I love sharing this with you because I want you to understand, it's not just slow growth companies. It's not just companies I picked. I just looked at growth because I wanted to understand why they grow so much. And I put a lot of those interviews on my podcast, Growth Think Tank. If you guys listen to podcasts and you want to be a better leader, it's a great way to get insights from people that are growing, having an incredible amount of success, but they're also doing it because they believe in leadership. They believe in that power and the connectivity between people. So that big question that I told you about, I didn't give you the data behind it, but after hundreds and hundreds of conversations, 94% will say it's employee first. 94%. I remember one day I was sitting down with the CEO of a Fortune 50 company, one of the 50 largest companies in the world. And this company CEO said, "What are you excited about?" And I told him about this one question, the impossible question. And I told him what the answers were. And he sat there and looked at me and said, "You're wrong." One of the biggest companies in the world, the CEO sat down with me and said, "My research wasn't right." And I was like, "Oh, maybe you misunderstood me. Maybe I didn't explain this well." And he went and told me 6 reasons why I was wrong. And today we're going to go through a few of those things today to address that. But here's the reality. I came back into my office. I was a little bit, shaken because someone I admired said I was wrong and my data was not accurate. And so the next 30 people I talked to, I asked that question and was very strict with what I did, how I phrased it. I wanted to make sure I wasn't projecting what I wanted them to answer. And 30 people in a row said it has to be employees. Now, it's a very difficult question, but when you as a leader put employees first, they're able to feel the sense of belonging and connection to the work, and they feel like owners, and they're able to take care of the customers like owners. It's not because they have to, not out of responsibility, but out of a sense of ownership. And that's what we're talking about today. I'm going to pause right here for a second. Do you guys have any questions about this so far, diving in?
Yeah, it's really going great, Gene. So I think you're really hitting it on the nail, and also providing a holistic view on the overall growth with balanced views. It's going really excellent. Thank you so much.
Perfect. I'm
Yeah,
glad
there
that
is
comes a
one
lot from you. Go ahead.
Sorry, there is one question from Shweta. She is asking how to be a good leader as well as a good boss.
Okay, so we're going to dive into what that means a little bit because that's what we're doing, and we're talking about leadership today. And I will address that. If I don't address it throughout the content, we'll address it at the end. But let's keep going.
Sure.
So I asked a lot of these conversations a big question. This was my first big question I came up with. And so this really was a limited set of people. But I asked these CEOs and founders with big growth goals, how do you motivate employees to take responsibility for those goals? Every time I asked this question until I figured out it was wrong, is they don't want them to take responsibility. They want them to take a sense of ownership. That feeling of ownership. Remember I talked about the car that you drove, whether it was as beat up as mine and has as many miles as mine. When you own something, you feel differently about it than something you just take responsibility for. And so they wanted their employees to feel so connected to the work that they would take ownership, even if they didn't have a financial stake. Because some companies are able to give stock options or able to give profit sharing or able to give something that financially looks like ownership. But you can actually do it without those tools. You can do it by the way you engage with your employees as a leader. And that's what we're going into today. So put this in context. Ownership is not black or white. Actually, it's not. Ownership is black or white. It's yes or no. When you feel like an owner, you absolutely feel it to your core. You may know it because you're an actually owner, but when you step into an organization where you feel that sense of ownership, it's not something that's murky. It's absolutely crystal clear. And owning it means that when you are assigned some work and you actually are talking to your leader about this work, that you're willing to say, I own it. Because I would imagine most of you here on this call have people that are above you, that are, you're the employee to them on their team, but you may also have team members underneath you. And so you're kind of caught in the middle. And middle management is sort of the toughest place to be because you're expected to perform this work and all of this stuff going on, but you've got to own it. And you have people that maybe don't have that same sense of ownership that you do. And so your job is to be able to manage this up and down the pyramid, if you will. But this sense of ownership is very important for you to understand. And it comes, it's very similar to the entrepreneurial spirit. I've been a successful serial entrepreneur for many years, and I am an entrepreneur through and through. And the way I approach the work from a sense of boldness, a sense of creativity, a sense of just perseverance and grit, I want my employees to bring that with me. And a lot of people say this is impossible. I don't think it's impossible, because you can actually create context and create leadership that makes people feel like owners. And you want people to have this entrepreneur spirit. It's not about them going to start their own jobs. This is about, who they see themselves as, their identity. So that being said, a lot of people think that this is a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to pause my slides here for a second. And we're going to go back to stop sharing. And we are going to switch cameras here, because I've got a chance to back up a little bit and get a little bit of this picture going. All right, this camera is not as fine detailed as the other one, but I wanted to play with you here. I talked about the sense of ownership. Giving ownership to other people is actually a little bit scary, and it's uncomfortable. So I want to take you back to a moment inside your own world where you probably have felt uncomfortable. All of us have been through this. And I really want you to play with me here. I want you to stand up for a second. I know you're probably at home. No one's probably looking. And if someone is looking, they don't know what you're doing. You're just standing up, right? I'm not going to ask you to do anything too crazy, but I want you to play with me. Stand up. I'm going to ask you to dance. Now, before you sit down, before you kind of, pull back and say, what is this guy doing? I want to ask you to dance. I'm not going to ask you to pop and lock. I'm not going to ask you to churn the butter. All those things are too advanced for you guys. Maybe some of you are better dancers than me, but I'm going to ask you to go way back to the middle school. The first time you went to a dance, the first time you were asked to dance with someone else, sort of couple dancing, the opposite sex or whatever it may be, you did the only kind of dance you knew how to do. It's called the sway, right? You go back and forth. This sway thing, very uncomfortable for most people because they don't know what to do. They've got, they don't know where to put their hands. Up too high is weird, down low. You don't know what to do with your butt. You got it sticking out like this. All these things that I bring you into is that sense of being uncomfortable. Now I'm going to switch back to my other camera because it's a little bit better. You can sit down. I just want you to play with me a little bit because we all have to do some new things. And we have to go beyond what we used to do. And sometimes being uncomfortable is part of that process. I bring up the dancing thing because you have to lean into it sometimes. And it's not about you being a better dancer. I just wanted you to get a feeling for being uncomfortable. If I took you back to that point where you were, some of you never became dancers, and that's okay. But many of you are really kind of looking at this and saying, how do I continue to grow? Well, you want to feel that feeling of uncomfortableness. You want to keep looking for that as you engage with others. Now, back to the sharing the screen. One more slide. We're going to jump into this really quick, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm actually going to have to probably pull up some more slides because I'm not able to talk to you guys as much. Here we are. If you want people to feel like owners, you've got to get a few things right. And I've got these 6 principles of ownership here. Now, what we're going to walk through today is a little bit of these: mission, inclusive, growth, transparency, empowerment, and mindset. And really is a really big part of the way you connect with people. How do you lead them and be their boss? Well, you actually understand what these pieces are. And these pieces are the key to people feeling like owners. Now, I have some slides and I'm not going to go with you guys because we're going to fly through this a little bit today, but let's just look at mission. Mission is the piece of the business where if someone is asked to come to work for your company, that you're all on a mission together. That mission is what binds you together. It's not just to make money. There's usually something in fast growth companies that's bigger than the company. I've talked to a lot of companies that are very purpose-driven, and they have something that they're able to attach to that is more than just making money. Now, if you have mission inside your company, that's great. I'm not asking you to go recast that. I don't know what level of leadership you are. It takes top-level leadership to recast mission, But if you have a mission, you can use it well. The next one is inclusive. When you think about being inclusive with this, is you have to include people into the decision-making process, into the process of how we're moving forward. Now, I work with some companies that have 10 employees, and that's really easy to do. I work with some companies that have 400 employees, and they're scattered across the world, and that's a lot harder to do. But the more you can create inclusivity into the experience, the more likely you can actually get things done. And people feel a sense of ownership. I want to make sure that the slides were still showing. So all of this being said, you want to make sure that people feel included. They feel understood. The next piece behind this is growth. Growth is a place where you can actually do a few really specific things that will help you be a better leader. But growth is where people feel like they are rising to another level. They feel like their skill levels are getting better. They feel like their experience level is getting better. And in most simplest terms, they feel more valuable to the outside world because of what they're doing inside your company. And if you create a place where people are getting this training, where they're feeling sort of like they're growing, then and this increased value, you will be able to keep that person longer. You will also be able to have conversations that make them feel like an owner. One very specific thing you can do, and I will break here for a second because I think there's a good way to show this, but I moved the slides down here to the bottom. Forgive me. Here it is we talk about team goals and company goals all the time. Those team goals and company goals become a part of who we are as an organization. But what's missing here? What about the personal goals? What does that individual want to do with their time while they're working for you? If you can find a way to find alignment of the personal, team, and company goals, you can actually create that sense of ownership. Because if they wanted to be a better at sales, and they've been a technical person for 5 years, and they want to learn the sales process because they know that's the next skill that they want to develop, that will give them a chance to every day they show up, a feeling of ownership. And so your job as leaders is to tune in through one-on-one conversations to really what those personal goals are and find the alignment between the team and the company. All right, so I will use some of these slides here because I thought we would be a little bit more interactive. Another way to do this is through transparency. People feel trust when they feel like you're being transparent with them. A lot of transparency is initially thought to is, do we share the profitability numbers? Right? Are we making money? How much are we making per widget? How much are we making every quarter, every year? Do we share those numbers? Well, I want to tell you that it's not just about the numbers. Remarkable transparency is so much more than just the numbers. But if we looked at the numbers, you would understand that companies that really help people feel like owners are willing to share those numbers in a place where it's completely transparent, in a place where they understand what their job is toward getting this goal. And 87% of the Inc. founders said this was important or very important to the growth of their business, is having a sense of transparency. One of the examples behind this is a company that I'm going to get into it for a second. But here's what happens in leadership. Many times we believe that others are not able to handle the truth. And so we actually, well, I got a little bit mixed up on the slides because I changed things, so I apologize. Another way to actually create more transparency is for each person to understand their KPIs, their key performance indicators, right? What they're actually doing inside their roles, and for them to share them amongst the team members, for them to open up and say, you know what? I know I'm supposed to book 10 meetings a week. I'm only at 8. I got to figure out how to move to the next level. When people understand where they stand relative to others and the openness behind that, we've seen inside an organization that's a much better way to approach it. So that's one way to do it. And you can share them openly. And companies actually have, in some cases, have big TV screens where people show those numbers and there's nowhere to hide. And people understand that their job is to own those numbers, not just, okay, maybe I'll hit them, maybe I won't. You share everything that's legally able to share. This, obviously you don't want to break legal rules, but you don't want to draw the line too far. A lot of people are really scared about sharing numbers, but it really is an important piece to understand what is legal. Like salaries are not something you typically share because you don't own it as a company. It's something, a part of the relationship with each individual employee, and those individual employees may not want their salaries listed for everyone. One company that's done this really well is HubSpot. It's a huge marketing company. They were growing really fast, and they believed in transparency was a central part of why they grew so fast. In 2014, they went public. But when they went public, they had to really look at the way they looked at transparency. Publicly traded companies have to decide who is a designated insiders. Only the designated insiders get to know the financials of a company. But they thought about it and said, this is in contrast to the way we got to where we are. So how do we wrestle with this? The answer that they came to was they decided to make every employee a designated insider, meaning they made every employee feel special enough so that they actually share the numbers and the strategies of how the company was going to grow. And years later, this is still the case. Every employee is a designated insider. If you've ever understood public companies, this is a very, very big deal. This is a very remarkable transparency, and that's the reason I share it with you. All right, so one last thing to this is what else do you need to do? I'm going to come back to this right up here. I know you're seeing all my slides, but here's the reality. We've been talking about mission, inclusion, growth, and transparency. We're going to talk about empowerment. Before we get to empowerment, I kind of like this little video that comes up, but a lot of leaders think that employees can't handle the truth, but the reality is they can handle a lot more than you give them credit for, and they actually are craving for someone to trust them to the level to really be be able to give them that level of transparency. But here's a leader that thought otherwise.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
I bring this to you today. You may not know this movie, but Jack Nicholson plays an officer, and something happens. He's in a court, and he realizes that he's running a business, or he's not running a business. He's people's lives are at stake. And so he tells people what to do. He commands them. Now, this works in life or death situations. This works inside of our militaries, but this does not work inside of our businesses. We don't command people. We invite them along the journey with us. And so when you as a leader are understanding some of the things that I've been sharing with you today, you understand this to a different level. We're going to wrap this up with two more pieces behind this. Then we're going to do some Q&A. I'm enjoying my time with you guys. I'm just checking we're going to have to go fast here. So empowering people is probably one of the bigger ones, but I will tell you, of all the ones we've talked about today, this one's the one people think that they get and understand, because everyone as a leader wants to know that they're empowering them. But you have to really look at your own approach and say, what is it I could do to better empower, to increase the level of empowerment that we're operating at within our company. And so this is an example. I don't know if you guys remember this a few years ago, but United Airlines had a situation where they needed to get an employee, or not employee, they needed to get an employee on the plane, but they needed to get some paying customers off the plane. Well, they did everything in the rule books and the standard operating procedures to get people off the plane. They offered them money in forms of discounts and credits and plane tickets and all this stuff. Well, everybody had gotten to the point where they're like, no, we don't want to leave. One more person needed to get off. And so by the operating manuals, They had to go ask this doctor to get off the plane, and they didn't. You see the blood on his face. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I share all this story with you because what was happening inside this is the people that were the ticket agents, they did everything they could, but they didn't feel safe enough to make a decision that says, you know what, we need to find another way to get our employee to this other location. We don't need to pull this person off the plane. I don't know what's going to happen here. You know, when that rule was written, social media probably wasn't a thing. We weren't carrying around video cameras in our pockets. And so they did not feel empowered to make a decision. My hope is that I ran this as a company. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Rohit, can you be muted? The question answer session will start, then you can ask your question. Yeah, sorry about that, Gene. Please continue.
It's okay.
Okay, sure.
So, you know, what you really want inside of our organizations is people that feel safe enough to make decisions for the company. And those ticket agents did not feel safe enough. They felt like they would probably risk their job if they didn't pull this guy off the plane. Well, I went back and looked at this. It had a drastic impact to the stock price, to the, you know, a lot of people say they'll never fly United again because of the way they treat their customers. Well, this is really what we want to try to avoid, but you want to empower your employees the right way. You want them to think for themselves. So what does all this mean? When you run a fast growth business, you realize ideas come from anyone, not just you. That may have started that way in the beginning because you had the idea for this business, but as you bring more people along the journey with you, you want to make sure that you are able to hear those ideas and able to understand it. And in fact, if they're the ones on the front lines with the customers, doing all the customer service and sales and all the stuff that you've been removed from, they might be better positioned to actually share ideas than you are when you're removed. You're doing all your strategic and visionary work. So let employees make decisions. Let them truly push themselves to the next level. Let them understand that failure is okay. Be safe enough that they're not going to, you know, lose their job because of it. Now, I'm not saying that we can all take risk, but if they're afraid to take risk, they'll never innovate. They'll never truly feel that sense of ownership that's necessary for our companies to move forward. And employees will really persevere when they feel like owners. All of this is meant to really help you understand. One of my companies that I work with, 4-time Inc. level company, they went through a lot of changes around this, but they created a place where people feel like owners. And this really is an important piece. And empowerment is just one of the pieces. You want to get them all right. This is one of those areas where you really want to try to get all of these things right, not just one of them. I wanted to move forward with this. I'm going to take 2 more minutes and we'll do Q&A. When you think about your job as a leader, your job is not to just get people to do the work. Reid Hoffman is the co-founder of LinkedIn. He's very successful. He's created many other types of investments in companies and been a part of the backgrounds of these companies. And you can chart an epic journey to scale if you'll make everyone a hero along the way. What this really means is leadership is not about you being the hero. Leadership is about how can you engage others to feel like the hero and to rise up to that. And I think one of the things that's missing inside of our leadership is we focus so much on the work and not much on leading the people. We don't talk about transforming their mindset. We don't talk about, you know, truly giving them courage, having conversations where we talk about confidence. Those things are left on their own. Every CEO I know is always reading books about their own mindset around their own confidence and courage and all the things that go with it. But we rarely talk about that for our employees. And so I'm giving you a little bit of an insight behind what's going on to help you be a better leader. Fast growth companies believe in this whole sense of growth as a part of their identity. And if you are a leader who wants to inspire others, if you want them to feel a sense of ownership, you've got to be willing to lead them in such a way that their identity begins to shift. And the best example I can actually give of you of that is something that where in my life, something changed drastically. Remember when I did the dancing thing for you and I made you feel funny and odd and uncomfortable? Well, I lived that for more than 2 decades. I didn't know how to chat with women. I didn't know how to dance. I didn't have the confidence or courage in myself to do that. But I remember being on the sidelines at a wedding. I was 26 years old, and I was waiting for someone to ask me. I was a little bit nervous in case they did. And I remember a beautiful girl asked me to dance. Now, this was a family wedding. So when I say beautiful girl, I mean my cousin, which is completely okay because she was just dancing with me. But she said, "What do you know how to do? You know how to jive or jitterbug?" And I said, "No, all I got was this part, right? The side to side sway." And as a 26-year-old man, I realized my identity was not a dancer. And so what happened next was I decided to learn to lean into dancing, to learn how to shift my own identity. And I changed. This is a snippet from a video I did on a speech, I guess about 2 years ago, but it's one of the best videos I have. So here's just a little bit of that dancing.
Wow, looks great. Oh my God.
So I'm glad you like that. I share that with you because that was an identity shift that I went through and I personally experienced. And again, I'm not asking you to be a dancer. Maybe that scares you and it's just not something you would ever do. But if you step into this thing called leadership and you want to inspire people to feel like owners, to go beyond responsibility, to go beyond accountability, you want to make sure that you truly are stepping into something and changing not only your own identity as a leader, but you're able to have conversations that lift others up, lift their identity so that they're more clear about who they are so that they can contribute more to the business. This is what the future of work looks like. This is what our economy is going to look like when we get together. So I share all this with you because I'm excited about the work I do. I'm excited about helping you. But the biggest enemy to all of this is to do what you've always done, the status quo, to be lazy, to be complacent. And it really is a dangerous place to be. We're going to talk about leadership today. I want to ask you or I want to answer your questions. So what questions do you have for me?
Yeah, I'll let you know about the question, but what a journey from that sway to the swag of yours. I mean, that was fantastic. Absolutely mind blowing. I mean, yeah, yes. Rohit, please unmute and ask your question.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Sir, I am just asking that how to be a good leader as well as good boss.
So when you say a good boss, what is the difference between leader and boss to you?
Leader that helps their representative work with them, and the boss like
Julian, he got muted, I think.
Okay. So let me interpret for you since you got cut off or something happened. The boss is many times the person that is trying to manage the work and get it done. The boss is the person that's, kind of made a promise to someone else that says, we'll get this to you, whether it be a customer, whether it be a partner, whether it be someone ahead above them in the pyramid, if you will. And so a boss is someone who is charged with getting the work done. But I think a leader is someone who's in charge of growing the people and getting the work done. And the difference between the two is the boss doesn't care about the person as much. I'm not saying that they don't care, but a leader really cares about who that person is, how they're engaging with the work, how they feel, and they're having conversations that allow them to.
Exactly. I want to ask that how to be a good leader as well as good boss.
So one of the things you have to do is listen to your employees more. There's a few different things I could share with you, but I'll give you two. And I'll share my iPad again with you again to help you. But the Can you see my iPad? All right. So that's where we
Yes.
were. All right. So you want to listen to your employees better. When I say listen, everyone listens, but are you truly listening? Are you truly present for them? We have these little things, these little devices that get in our way. Little phone I'm holding up here. I believe that a lot of times we don't consciously put these aside to let people know that we're listening. So one way to be a better leader is to truly listen and be present for those employees. Let them feel heard and understood. So one of the other things that you can do is, it's a tool I've used, is to talk about the kinds of things that are expected inside of our organization that people aren't talking about. For example, I wish I have in my office, I have this document I've been carrying around for a while. I had a client come to me and said, we really want to talk about team alignment. How do we align as a team? I said, perfect. You should have a conversation with your team members, not about the work, but about what team alignment is. And what I suggest is go back to like middle school again, where you created a sun and you had, this is how you would draw a sun. You guys with me so far? When you think about this, team alignment is made up of many different things. It should be a definition that we could all answer, but we would probably answer it a little bit differently. So when I see team alignment, what I hear is a shared vision. And this is not for you to teach your employees what this thing is. It's for you to actually let them build it, for you to facilitate it. And you write down this, like I'm writing these down. If you guys were commenting, I'd be filling in here. What is team alignment? It is common goals. It is also about respect. It's about trust. It's about healthy disagreements. This little sunburst, if you will, this little simple sun, this diagram, if you had a whiteboard, if you had a tool like this inside of a Zoom meeting like we're doing today, you could take your team as a leader and get them aligned around something that's important for them to, and this can be, you can exchange this team alignment for anything. It could be honesty, transparency. It could be integrity. It could be, what does being on time look like? It can be very simple. It can be very big kind of picture kind of stuff. But when you have an experience with them to get on the same page together, they walk away with, this is the way we all see it. Yes, we all agree with this. Does this help you kind of understand one of the tools you can do to be a better leader?
Sir, can we balance both a good leader and a good boss?
I think there's some overlap there. So it's not just about balancing it. It's understanding that if you are that good leader and bound, you have both sides. If you're just a leader who doesn't, you're just trying to get the person to be more confident and they're not getting the work done, you haven't done your job. If the boss is charged with getting the work done, getting the results, then you want to make sure that you as a leader are able to see both sides and know which side to play at the right time. Being a boss doesn't mean you have to be, I'll say it, doesn't mean you have to be an asshole. Being the boss means you have to sometimes sit back and say, you know what? I've noticed that the quality of your work is not where it has been in the past. Is there something going on with you? So those are some kind of things that you can do to be a better leader and a boss, but you want to make sure that you're not leaving out the fact that you've got to lead people to be better versions of themselves. Because if you lead people to be better versions of themselves, they will have a feeling of ownership with you and they will stay longer they will contribute more, they will have more perseverance, they will be more innovative, more creative, and they will actually look for opportunities and go beyond responsibility and accountability. Hopefully that's helpful.
Okay, sir, it's helpful. I am asking that because I am a gym owner as well as I am a political leader. So I want to balance both.
What was that last sentence?
Yeah, he runs a gym, and as well as he's into politics. He's a political leader.
Okay.
Sir, I want to ask
So,
one more question.
yeah, people. So
So
managing.
admin, sir. I wanted to
Yes, go
ask,
Say that
ahead.
again.
ma'am, listen, ma'am. Hello,
Yeah,
Hello?
go ahead.
We can hear.
ma'am. I am asking for you, ma'am. I want to make cardio classes online.
Okay, we can talk about that later. Please email us at webinar at
Ma'am, can I
letustalkit.com and
get
we
you,
can.
ma'am? Can I WhatsApp you my?
Yeah, we'll just stick to the topic right now. Um, yeah, Jean wonderfully answered, and uh, what a brilliant presentation. I have no words to describe it, to the point with practical examples. And this is what a webinar does, just stirs those emotions, those qualities, whatever has become a little dormant. Just wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Jean. Yeah, but I know you have something else to share with our attendees audience today. So
Yeah.
before, yeah.
The main thing here is, the big idea is pretty simple. Fast growth companies understand that their employees are more important than their customers. Now, the reason why they're more important is because they understand to scale fast, to be able to grow, that it takes a team, it takes people to do that. And those people are those talented individuals are hard to come by. Once you've trained them up, you don't want to let them go. You want to retain that talent. And so people have to be taken care of. And leaders are the ones that are supposed to do this. And it's so much more than benefits or snacks in the break room or even free beer and ping pong and all those little, nice things to have. It's about how we feel about our work, how we feel about ourselves, and how we feel about who is in our leadership kind of area. When you take the intention to be a stronger leader, you want to make sure that you make people feel understood. You make them feel that you trust them and that they can trust you. Because if you want them to just, get the work done, you want them to just be, you get it done at all costs and put in all these extra hours, you want to make sure that they feel like they're a part of something bigger than just making money. So we've been talking about the things that we could be doing about transparency, about growth, and about inclusion, mission. We even talked about empowerment and mindset. The question here is, will you be a leader that engages people in different kinds of conversations so that you understand them and they feel understood? Will you be a leader who truly is present for them when they need it the most? Or will you push people and challenge people to be more confident and courageous in their roles as they work in this company? Because those are the kind of leaders that are able to amass a team that is able to navigate through challenge. They're able to adapt quickly. They're able to really push beyond where they are today. And I haven't said this specifically, and I'll leave you with this. Responsibility is not bad, but responsibility is something, it's really kind of, the bare minimum. Accountability is a little step higher, but accountability is an external set of checks and balances that allow you to, did you get the work done? Is it right? But here's the reality. When you can go beyond responsibility, beyond accountability with your leadership style, you create a culture where people feel like owners. They will put in their heart and soul into the work. You will be challenged as a leader to do that, but I've given you some of the guides and the frameworks that allow you to be a more effective, visionary leader that can connect people together. That's what this whole message is about your leadership, making people feel like owners so that they're able to push beyond responsibility and accountability. And they do it because they want to, not because they have to. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. We'll definitely touch base offline. Jean, thank you so much. Jean, can you stay back for a minute? You can stay back for a minute. Once we are offline, we can continue to talk for a minute.
Sure.
Yeah, cannot agree more, Regine, for the last part, that the takeaway part. I mean, this was just, if one thing that leaders could understand, it would be best for the individuals, the employees, and the company as well. What a wonderful presentation. And just before you are sad that the session has ended or will be ending soon, we want to tell you that Let Us Talk It will be back again tomorrow with another interesting technical topic, which is data science in business applications, how Fortune 500 companies use data science and practical usage of data science as well. And on Thursday from 12 to 1, we have another session, how to find your passion. And the age-old question of almost every youngster solved within 20 minutes. So that will be interesting for sure. And we have a very interesting topic with the youth webinar, which will happen on Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. EST, which will talk about the elections from the youth perspective and whatever is going in the political arena. So we'll have something to add on that too, our youth. And these are the webinars that are set for this week. And we come every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, with our professional webinars from 12 to 1 p.m. EST, and our youth session from on Saturdays from 4 to 5 p.m. EST. And we do yoga sessions as well every Wednesday and Sunday from 9 to 10 p.m. EST, and on Sundays from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. EST. So we also do practice sessions for the youth webinar on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 4 to 5 p.m. EST, which will happen today from 4 to 5. It's the same Zoom link. If you are a parent or you have a child who wants to be part of it, please do join us in the same Zoom link from 4 to 5 p.m. EST. Yes. Any other question for Jean?
No, I'm good, I guess.
Okay, then we'll end the session here. Thank you everyone for joining in, tuning in. Please leave your comments, feedback. We'll definitely take a look at those. And thank you, Jean, so much for your time, for your excellent presentation, and making a difference in anybody's life, who have attended and have learned something from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we'll just...